So let's continue. The well, on the previous class, we finished two paragraphs. On the previous class, we finished two paragraphs. So, okay, I will just go ahead and read the paragraph, two paragraphs, and then we will continue. Kondiba Gatewa hated begging, but the famine. Okay, I will just underline like this and go. Kondiba Gaekwad hated begging, but the famine in Maharashtra in 1972 to 1973 had driven him from his home in Aurangabad to Mumbai in search of bread. At first, he had tried selling brooms. Unfortunately, he had little luck selling his goods. He soon learned that Mumbai is generous to beggars, especially blind beggars. And 25 years old Kondiba was blind. He had become blind with smallpox at the age of 8. Next para. This also we finished studying. It was a cloudy day in Golibar, the large slum colony in Katkapur, northeast of Mumbai. Kondiba lived here with Tukaram and Tukaram's wife Yelenbai. It was the end of the monsoon in the middle of an open area. In the colony, there was a well. It was full of blackish green water. Nothing could be seen more than a few centimeters below the surface. Let's continue. The well was highly useful to the people who lived in the surrounding huts. So we are talking about a slum. We are not talking about a metropolitan city where people are living in all luxury. We are talking about a slum where thousands of people will be living together. See, one thing that we need to understand when you talk about slum, people from all over the places, they would just come to the slums and they live by themselves. So they may not be having permissions from the panchayat or the government authorities. So the government may not be able to completely look upon them because they are coming by themselves and living over there without proper permission. Maybe that could be an abandoned land also, where the government may be like just keeping it there for something or the other. So there, these people just come and live together, basically because of the poverty or different things. As we heard the story of Kondiba. Kondiba came from Aurangabad to Mumbai. So why did he come from Aurangabad to Mumbai? Because of the famine. In the same manner, people who are struggling to find a livelihood at different places, they would come and live in such slums as a colony, and they would find a job and somehow try to stay there, and they would be living in huts. Okay, so there won't be enough facilities for water, there won't be enough facilities for sanitation, nothing would be there. They would somehow survive there. So that is a slum. Okay, so the people are living in the huts. That also we can see over here. The well was highly useful to the people who lived in the surrounding huts. The well was highly useful to the people who lived in the surrounding huts. They had dug it 2 years before because the only water tap in the colony was not enough for the slum's growing population. So who had dug it? Yeah, it's a question. Okay, you can expect this question in your examination also. They had dug it. Who had dug it? Yeah, the people who lives in the colony. The people who lives in the colony. That means the people who lives in the Golibar colony. The people who lives in the Golibar slum colony. They had dug the well. So they had dug it. When they dug it 2 years before, why? Because the only water tap in the colony was not enough for the some slums growing population. So there was only one water tap available. See, maybe like the government has made a water tap for 2-3 families, and that water tap is there. But what is happening here is here people are just coming and crowding over this place, coming, many people coming together and living there. So there is only one water tap available, and with that tap for them it was not sufficient. The water that was coming from that tap was not sufficient for the people. So what did they do? They just dug a well. They dug a well. They had dug it. Who had dug it? The people in the Goliba slum had dug it. When they had dug it 2 years before. And why they had dug it? Because The only water tap in the colony was not enough for the slum's growing population. Next line. Okay. There had never been any money for a wall around the well. You need to understand these people are poor people. Okay, they don't have anything to survive. That is why they are here for survival. So they dug a well. They dug a well, but they had never been any money for a wall around the well. So they were not having enough money for constructing a wall around the well. You know, like if you are in South India, you see the wells will be having the wall. In South India, most of the wells will be having wall. But in North India, there could be these bore wells, which should be dug and could be kept open, without closing it properly. And sometimes we hear the stories of little children falling into it. In South India, also maybe in Tamil Nadu and all, it happened. But in Kerala, mostly it won't happen because people sometimes do the bore well inside the well, or they used to cover it properly. But some it do happen in Kerala. I'm not saying it never happened. It do happen in Kerala, but like in other states, we often hear such things happening where little children falling into such bore wells and losing their life. Very difficult to bring them back and having a very difficult time in the bore well because the child may fall deep inside, and it would be very difficult to bring the child back up. And sometimes they used to dig big holes, and by the time when they reach there, the child may would have already passed away. So it's always better to close the bore wells once the bore well is done. Sometimes some people dig the bore well, and since there is no water available, they would not they will just leave it like that and go for another place. So at that time, the bore will the it will be opened, and it will be remaining as an open thing, and the children could fall into it. So we need to make sure such things are not happening. Because of our carelessness, things of such kind could happen. So we have to be very careful. So there had never. So these colony people also had dug a well. This is actually not a bore well; it's a big well. Okay, they had dug a well, and but they never had a money. They never had any money for a wall around the well. They never had the money for constructing a wall around the well. The mouth of the well. So if you don't construct a wall, what also could happen? It is not only about the safety of people. It is also about the mouth of the well had gradually widened as the soil and the rocks on the side fell in. What will happen? Yeah, the soil and the rocks of the side of this well could fall into the water. The mouth of the well had gradually widened as the soil and the rocks on the sides fell in. The bottom was narrow, so you could like imagine the well, huh? The bottom had become narrow, muddy and filled with weeds, huh? Weeds means that useless plants, huh? The bottom was narrow, the bottom had become narrow and also muddy with full of mud and filled with weeds. We had already studied in the previous paragraph what nothing could be seen more than a few centimeters below the surface. It had turned to be a blackish green water. So it's a muddy water. It was a muddy water, but there was no other facilities for the colony people, and they were not even aware that if they use such muddy water, that could be harmful for their health. They are not even so much aware of that also, and they were not having enough money for constructing a wall or cleaning the well. They were not having the money or time to clean the well or to construct a wall. That was their case. The well was dangerous. What was the well? The well was dangerous, but it had been there for so long, so no one worried about it. So the well is a dangerous one, and it could create danger to people, but nobody really cared about it because it was there for such a long time. For such a long time, the well was there, so nobody cared about the well. It seemed harmless. It seemed like it is harmless. Kondiba had returned to the slum to eat a little food. So now Kondiba had returned to the slums. Where was Kondiba? Yeah, he was in the street begging, and now he had returned to the slum to eat a little food. Which Ellen Bai had prepared. So with Ellen Bai, Kondiba is living. So Kondiba will be probably giving some money to Ellen Bai. So she had prepared some food for Kondiba. His days begging usually ended when he had collected rupees 5 to rupees 6 in his small gunny bag. So his days begging usually end. When like when will his begging end? His begging will usually end when he is able to collect 5 to 6 rupees in his small gunny bag. So you need to understand, even though these people are blind, they know exactly how much money they are receiving. If you give to a money, if you give a 10 rupee note to a blind person, they will just go through the note and they will be able to tell you how much it's it. Okay, so that's they used to learn. So, and they have good concentration also. So his days begging usually ended up when he had collected rupees 5 to 6 in his small gunny bag. So when he collects around 5 to 6 rupees, it is happening in maybe like 50 years back. That means 5 or 6 rupees is more than enough for somebody's survival. Like today's maybe like 500 or 600 rupees we can compare with today's 500 or 600 rupees. So we already learned that the slum, oh sorry, the city was good towards. Good means like they were usually sympathizing to the blind beggars. So Kondiba was receiving a good amount of money. That means in a day he could receive around 5 to 6 rupees, and this is happening around 50 years back. Let's go ahead. Let's go back and see the paragraph once again. The well was highly useful to the people who lived in the surrounding huts. They had dug it 2 years before because the only water tap in the colony was not enough for the slum's growing population. There had never been any money for a wall around the well. The mouth of the well had gradually widened as the soil and rocks on the sides fell in. The bottom was narrow, muddy, and filled with weeds. The well was dangerous, but it has been there for so long, so no one worried about it. It seemed harmless. Kondiba had returned to the slum to eat a little food, which Ellenby had prepared. His days begging usually ended when he had collected rupees 6 to rupees 5 to 6 in his small gunny bag. Suddenly, there were shouts and sounds of great confusion. See the next paragraph. Suddenly, I'm just highlighting it. Okay, this paragraph. Okay. Suddenly, there were great shouts and sounds of great confusion. So there were what? Shouts and sounds of great confusion. Kondiba and Ellenby were startled. Kondiba and Ellenby did what? They were startled. What do you mean by startled? Startled. What do you mean by startled? Let's see the word meaning of startled. Surprised. Startled means what? Surprised. So Kondiba and Ellenby, both of them were surprised. Someone has fallen in the well. Someone has fallen in the well. They had a woman cry. One woman started to cry and saying, and what she was crying? Somebody has fallen in the well. See, before we proceed any further, let's look upon the word meaning. Okay. Pottery. Okay, we are going to see the word meanings over here. Then we will go to the text. Okay, this is very important. Pottery. What is pottery? Pots made of clay. What is pottery? Pots made of clay. Float. Stay on the surface of a liquid. So here it is water. So float means stay on the surface of a liquid. So here it is water. Run out of something. That means use up or finish a supply of something. Run out of something means use up or finish a supply of something. Vanish, disappear. Vanish means disappear. Bursting or bursting, almost breaking open. Bursting means almost breaking open. Disappointment, unhappiness because some desired event has not happened. Disappointment means unhappiness because some desired event has not happened. Ribs. What is ribs? Curved bones extending from the backbone and curving round to the chest to protect the heart and legs. So where are ribs? Probably you can just touch the ribs. Ribs, curved bones extending from the backbone. So curved bones extending from the backbone and curving round to the chest to protect. The purpose of it is to protect the heart and lungs. Desperately, trying badly in a situation of hopelessness, trying barely in a situation of hopelessness. And lad, L-A-D, lad is another word for boy. For another word for boy is lad, L-A-D, lad. Okay, then now let's go back to the para what we are studying. Suddenly there were shouts and sounds of great confusion. Kondiba and Allenby were startled. Someone has fallen in the well. They heard a woman cry. Okay, let's go for the next para. Kondiba set aside his meal and said urgently, Kondiba set aside his meal. Kondiba was having his meal. He kept his meal aside. And what is he saying? Quick, lead me there. Who said? Kondiba said, quick, lead me there. Within a minute, the blind beggar and the women reached the well. So within no time or within a minute means not even 1 minute it took for them to reach the well. They would have been running. Within a minute, the blind beggar and the women reached the well and pushed their way through a small group at the mouth of the well and pushed their way through a small group at the mouth of the well. So there were people gathered over there. So whenever something happened at any place, people usually gather and people simply gather and they won't do anything. Sometimes when there is an accident or anything of such a thing, people will gather, but people will just gather and look and see. Sometimes, people will even take videos. To post it in Facebook or somewhere, but they never go and help the people. That is happening over here also. People are just gathering there and nobody is doing anything. So, but what did Kondiba do? He just pushed his way through the group at the mouth of the well, so he could reach to the mouth of the well. In seconds, it didn't take any time. It took only some seconds. Kondiba pulled off his shirt. What did he do? He just took away his shirt and slipped into the water. He just got into the water. Two boys were already paddling around trying to find young Arvind. So there is the boy who had fallen into the well, his name is Arvind. Two boys were already paddling, like sometimes we paddle in a boat. Paddling means like using your feet to move around. Two boys were already paddling around trying to find young Aravind. So two boys were just paddling around to find young Aravind who had fallen off a tree trunk while drawing water. So from where he has fallen? He has fallen off a tree trunk. He has fallen off a tree trunk. He was trying to draw water, but he has fallen off a tree trunk. The boys could not dive. Here you need to understand, not everybody can dive into the water. Only the expert can dive into the water. A person who knows swimming can swim. That means he can just paddle around. So in the well, that is why the other two children are able to paddle around. They were only able to paddle around, but somebody to go deep inside, he has to dive, and that only a professional can do. Not everybody can dive into the water. Only the professional person can dive into the water. Others can only swim. So the other two boys who are in the water are not able to dive inside. They are only able to paddle around. But let's see what Kondiba is doing. As a blind boy, will Kondiba be able to do something? As a blind boy, will Kondiba be able to do something? Let's see the further. Okay, let's see further. Kondiba had been a good swimmer. Kondiba was what? He had been a good swimmer. See, they are using the hand. That means the past tense. Kondiba had been a good swimmer as a younger boy. When he was young, he was really a good swimmer. Before he lost his eyesight. Before he lost his eyesight, Kondiba was a very good swimmer. But years of poverty had made him weak. After becoming a blind boy, he had become weak. He is not having enough strength now. Before he was a very good swimmer and could do several things, but right now it's been several years since he has lost his eyesight. No proper nutrition, no proper food. He's a beggar, so he had already lost his strength. Once he had been able to dive deep into the wells around his village to pick up shining bits of broken pottery that he and his friends would throw in as part of a game. So when he was young, he used to play a game. What was the game? Yeah, his friends would throw broken potteries into the water. His friends would throw broken potteries into the water and he would just dive inside and bring them back. When he was young, he used to do that. Once that was not happening now, it was long back when he was having the eyesight. Once he had been able to dive deep into the wells. Once he was a very good swimmer, and once he had been able to dive deep into the wells around his village. In his village, there were wells, and he could dive inside the well. What was he doing? Picking up shining pots of broken pottery. When people use pottery for different things, right? So when the pottery is broken, the children used to play with it. So the children used to throw the shining bits of broken potteries into the well, and he will dive into the well, and he will collect it and bring it back. It was a part of game. So he got an experience long back, but now the problem is he is weak and he is a blind boy. But it had been many years since he had tried to hold his breath long enough to get to the bottom of a well. Now we have a problem over here. The problem is you need to hold your breath. You cannot just breathe when you're inside the water. You have to hold the breath, and you have to go inside. So that's the problem over here. It had been many years, and he had already lost his practice. Before, he used to dive into the well by holding his breath, but now he is a weak boy. So it had been many years. There had been many years since he had tried to hold his breath long enough to get to the bottom of a well. So it's been several years since he had tried to do anything like this, like holding the breath. Kondiba floated on the surface for a moment. What did he do? He floated on the surface. Floated means he just moved away. Moved. I mean, he just stayed on the surface of the water. Float means staying on the surface of what liquid or a water here. So Kondiba floated on the surface for a moment. For some time, he just floated on the surface. Then took a deep breath and dived. What did he do? He just stayed in the water for some time. It is when you say sometime, it is not 1 or 2 minutes. Okay, it's all in seconds, because once somebody is in the water, he will not be surviving for more than 6-7 minutes. So everything has to happen within 4 or 5 minutes from the time when after the scream was heard by Kondiba. All these things it should happen in seconds, not even minutes. Then the boy in the well will not survive. So Kondiba floated on the surface for a moment, maybe 2-3 seconds. He just floated on the surface of a moment in the water. Then took a deep breath and dived. Then what did he do? He took a deep breath and he dived into the water, carefully feeling his way along the rocks on the side of the well. What he's doing? Carefully, he needs to be careful, carefully feeling his way along the rocks on the side of well. So there were rocks on the side of the well. So he was touching the rocks and he was moving to the bottom. He reached the bottom. Where did he reach? He reached the bottom. His feet sank into the soft mud. There is something called the soft mud. So his feet sank into the soft mud. So you need to understand, soft mud again is very dangerous. Okay, like water, you can just swim and come back. But if your feet get caught into the soft mud, it's very difficult to make it free. Like if sometimes what happened, some people's feet could or their leg till their knee portion could get caught into the soft mud. If your one feet is gone, or if your one leg is sank into the soft mud, you immediately try to free the one leg with the other leg, resulting both leg to be caught up in the resulting both leg to get into the soft mud. So here again, his feet sank into the soft mud, but he was an expert. That's what it shows over here. His feet sank into the soft mud. He felt nothing but the mud and the slippery weeds. So what did he could feel? He could only feel the mud and the slippery weeds. We already studied what is the word weed means. That useless plants. Tired, and with his breath running out, he came to the surface. So he could go to the bottom, and when he went to the bottom, he could feel the soft mud and the slippery weeds. So nothing he could feel from there. So he just came back tired. He just came back as a tired boy, tired, and with his breath running out, he came to the surface. Once again, I'm reading the para. Okay, again. Kondiba floated on the surface for a moment, then took a deep breath and dived, carefully feeling his way along the rocks on the side of well. He reached the bottom. His feet sank into the soft mud. He felt nothing but the mud and the slippery weeds. Tired and with his breath running out, he came to the surface. Next para. It was now 2 minutes since Aravind had fallen in. How much time has gone? It was now 2 minutes since Aravind had fallen in. We already knew that a person won't survive more than 5 to 6 minutes. Okay, so it's a matter of life and death. It is a matter of life and death. It was now 2 minutes since Aravind had fallen in. His aunt, with whom he lived, was at the well. So his aunt, with whom he lived, was at the well. As Kondiba surfaced without the boy, he heard her wailing. Huh? So, what did Kondiba heard? Kondiba heard the wailing of the aunt with whom Aravind was living. It was now 2 minutes. It was how much time has gone? It was already 2 minutes since Aravind had fallen in. His aunt with whom he lived was at the well. His aunt with whom he lived in, who lived was at the well. As Kondiba surfaced without the boy, he heard her wailing. It was now 2 minutes since Aravind had fallen in. His aunt with whom he lived was at the well. As Kondiba surfaced without the boy, he heard her wailing. Next para. The blind man, so he was bit, unhappy, or he could have become sad because he couldn't serve the boy. The blind man took another deep breath and vanished into the muddy depths. So, what is the blind man doing? Yeah, our Kondiba doing. We know him well, so we don't have to call him blind man, right? We can call him Kondiba. Our Kondiba took another deep breath. Kondiba took another deep breath and vanished. Vanished means disappeared and disappeared into the muddy depths again. So this is the second time. First time he went and he couldn't find anything, and this is the second time. His first dive had given him a good idea of the shape of the well. He had dived into the well for the first time, and he already got a good idea about how the well is. So his first dive had given him a good idea of the shape of the well. So he went straight down and tried to search the bottom with his hands. So second time he is going straight down and is trying to search the bottom with his hands. They slipped in the mud and got caught in the weeds. Again, for the second time, his hand is slipping into the mud and is getting caught in the weeds. There was still no sign of the boy. There was still no sign of the boy. So its time is running out, but still they couldn't find the boy. The blind man took another deep breath and vanished into the muddy depths. His first dive had given him a good idea of the shape of the well, so he went straight down and tried to search the bottom with his hands. They slipped in the mud and got caught in the weeds. There was still no sign of the boy. Let's go to the next paragraph. His lungs were nearly bursting, bursting, right? When you blow the balloon, after a period of time, the balloon will burst. Like that, his lungs were nearly bursting. His lungs is holding the breath, and it's again like you need oxygen in your body. You need oxygen in our body, and the oxygen is necessary for our body to function, right? It's been some time he is in the water, so his lungs is about to burst. He rose to the top once again. This is the second time he is coming up. He had been down longer than the first time. He had been down longer than the first time. For more than the first time, he had taken more time. So the women and children were getting more and more excited. There were women and children on the top of the well. So they were more excited. When his head appeared above the water, The crowd gave a sigh of disappointment. And again, when they saw him coming without Aravind, they were all disappointed. You know, sigh means you make a sound like this, right? That sound. So a sigh of a disappointment. So the crowd gave a sigh of a disappointment. His lungs were nearly bursting. He rose to the top once again. He had been down longer than the first time. So the women and children were getting more and more excited. When his head appeared above the water, the crowd gave a sigh of disappointment. Okay, you are excited to see what is happening, right? Yeah. So let's go and see the next para. Never in all the years of his blindness had Kondiba missed his vision so much. So he had been without his eyesight, but now he felt so miserable that he was a blind boy. What Kondiba is thinking is that if I would have had the eyesight, I could have, found the boy. But that is not the reality that we will come to know. So never in all the years of his blindness had Kondiba missed his vision so much. So Kondiba is missing his vision so much. Kondiba is missing his vision so much. He was thinking, only if I had my eyesight, I could have rescued the boy. That is what he is thinking. If only he could see, he might be able to find the drowning boy. So Kondiba is thinking, it is because I don't have the eyesight, I'm not able to save the boy. That is what Kondiba is thinking. He did not know that even normal eyes would never have been able to see in muddy water. But he doesn't know the reality. The reality is even a normal person won't be able to see anything in the muddy water. That is the reality. The reality is what? Even the normal person won't be able to see anything in the muddy water. That is the reality. So he did not know that even normal eyes would never have been able to see in muddy water. That is the reality. But what Kondiba was thinking was, it is because I don't have the eyesight, I couldn't rescue the person. But that was his thought. But the reality is not that. The reality is what? The reality is not even the normal eyes could not see through the muddy water. Okay, I'm reading the para again. Never in all the years of his blindness had Kondiba missed his vision so much. If only he could see, he might be able to find the drowning boy. He did not know that even normal eyes would never have been able to see in muddy water. Next para. Kondiba was very tired. So it's been 2 times he had been in water, and it's been a long time since he is in the water and he's trying to save the boy. And we already studied that his lungs are about to burst. Kondiba was very tired. He is already very tired, but he knew he was Arvind's only hope. We already studied the definition of the word hero. Who is a hero? Yeah, a hero is a person. A hero is a person who is a real hero, uh, who, in spite of their own difficulties, are able to understand others' problem and are ready to help them. So Arvind is Kondiba is a blind boy, and still he is trying to help another boy who is in the water. He could have thought, okay, I am a blind boy. I'm a blind person. What am I going to do? Nothing he is thinking. He is thinking, okay, he doesn't care about himself. But in spite of all the weaknesses he is having, he is trying to save another person's life. That is why he is called as a hero. So who is a hero? We already studied who is a hero, right? Yeah, who is a hero? A hero is a person, in spite of their own difficulties, they are trying to help other people. So Kondiba was very tired, but he knew he was Arvind's only hope. He worked as fast as he could, but feeling his way through the mud and weeds, Arvind must be here. He thought he cannot have vanished. So these are the thoughts that coming to Kondiba, because Kondiba was not willing to give up. That's a very good quality of a person, right? Somebody who is of having a good character should always have this attitude of never giving up. So Kondiba is saying, I'm not going to give up. Okay, I'm not going to. Kondiba was very tired, but he knew he was Arvind's only hope. But he knew he was Arvind's only hope. He walked as fast as he could. So what Kondiba is doing? He walked as fast as he could, feeling his way through the mud and the weeds. He is feeling his way through the mud and the weeds. Aravind must be here. He thought he cannot have vanished. Aravind must be here. So what is he thinking? Yeah, he believes that Aravind must be inside the well. He thought he cannot have a vanished. So Aravind could not have a vanished. He could be inside the water. Kondiba's ribs were aching. Aching means what is aching? Paining. Huh? Kondiba's ribs were paining. He couldn't hold his breath much longer. Some keep, I want to stop here as a suspense. Okay. So by next class, we will see if Kondiba is able to find the boy or not. Two times he got into the water. He is tired. Let's see if he is able to save the boy. That's a suspense that we are going to see on the next class. So bye. So till then, bye. Okay. Bye bye.